Hello, everyone. I'm here at Marc Guggenheim here at Terrificon. Marc, how's it going today?
Very good, very good. Getting the day started.
Awesome. Now, I wanted to ask you about your whole career. You've worked with, superheroes for a good chunk of it.
Yeah.
And before you got involved with the CW shows, you did a lot of comic book writing. I was just curious, what were some of your inspirations before you got into writing?
Ooh, good question. Well, on the comic book side, I would say growing up, Chris Claremont, John Byrne, Frank Miller, Walt Simonson. Those were like, Marv Wolfman. Those were sort of the big points of inspiration where I go, ooh, I want to. This is what I want to do. On the TV side, it was shows like L.A. Law and St. Elsewhere and Picket Fences and Wise Guy, I would say. So I'm showing my age, but those were my points of inspiration there.
Awesome. Now, you've written a lot of different comic book characters and a lot of the big ones, Aquaman, Spider-Man, X-Men. What were some of your favorite ones to write?
Oh, good question. I tell you, they're all fun in their own way. Like, one of the things that I feel I need to do as a writer is I always have to key in to the thing that excites me. So there's always, something that is at the core of the character. It doesn't matter if they're A-list or D-list that I find appealing. So it really depends project to project. I will say, writing Spider-Man, that was an all-time, high for me. X-Men, writing the X-Men Gold run was one of the best things opportunities I've had in comics. I'm very lucky. I get to, play with toys that I grew up with. It's incredibly exciting and it's very humbling.
Now, in 2012, that's when we were introduced to the Arrow show and the birth of the Arrowverse, as they call it. What was the mindset or the thought process into creating Arrow at the time?
Three things really were our guiding principles: don't screw it up, don't screw it up, don't screw it up. Honestly, we were just coming off. Greg Berlanti and I were just coming off the experience of Green Lantern, where we basically lost control of the project, and we really, we're going to maintain as close control to this as possible. And if it goes down, at least it's going to go down at least now on our vision versus on someone else's vision. And to that end, we were we really don't want to screw this up. So just at every turn, making choices, we were like, okay, what's the truest thing to the character? What's the thing that excites us the most? Because we really approached it from the standpoint of fans, of us being fans, not the other fans, of us being fans. And we always go we're the first fans to experience this. What do we think is cool? What excites us? And that if you do that, usually you turn out okay. Usually, not always, because it's hard. It takes a lot of different people and a lot of planets to align to make anything work, much less something as ambitious as a superhero show where there's a lot of moving parts. It's not as simple as I've worked on shows where it was at the end of the day 2 people in rooms talking to each other. That's a lot easier than these shows.
Now, from day one, did you know you wanted to create the universe that you did with the Flash and Legends and Supergirl?
No, I think from day one we were let's make the pilot not suck. And then it was, once we got the pilot on the air, it was let's make episode 2 not suck. And I don't think it was until middle of season 1 of Arrow that Greg started to get the idea to do a Flash series. But even then, I don't think he was envisioning this massive universe that we now have. I think that sort of turned out to be somewhat accidental. Even Legends of Tomorrow, for example, really came about because kind of all of us independently were looking around and going, wow, there actually now are enough characters to field an entire superhero team. But that really sort of snuck up on all of us. It wasn't this planned thing. I wish we could say we were building to the Avengers. We weren't. We were just, honestly, just trying to do the shows and not make them suck.
With dealing with the properties that you deal with and how they're also portrayed on the big screen, for example, when you guys tackled the Suicide Squad, is it difficult working, while the movies are going on and when they throw kind of curveballs at you? Was that difficult to work around, or did you take it more of a challenge? Okay, how can we do our take on it?
Yeah, honestly, it's not that. I don't think it's that hard. We don't really think about the movies. We've got our own thing, and like I said, it's hard enough. and we actually do deal with a lot of curveballs, like legitimate curveballs, like where episodes don't come in well, or an actor gets sick and we have to write around that, or the weather screws everything up and like the whole scene is now in the rain. And we actually like day to day have to deal with real curveballs. Something like, hey, they're doing a Suicide Squad movie. That's not a curveball. That's super easy.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I've noticed from watching those shows is the casting and how every show, and especially during the crossovers, how well they work with each other and the chemistry they have. What can you say about the casting for all these characters in all these shows?
David Rappaport and Lindsay Baldessari, like there are two casting gurus. They've been literally part of the operation since day one of Arrow. The very first person they ever brought in for any of us to see was Stephen Amell, and they just get it. Like they get it. They bring us amazing choices. They always know exactly like who's available and who's the right fit. And what's really, I think, wonderful also, and this is like this wonderful little side benefit, is they're all really nice people. Like, and that becomes this sort of virtuous cycle, because when I'm talking to an actor and I'm trying to entice them to be on one of the shows, I will often say, one of the nice benefits is you're going to be working with all these nice people. So nice people attract nice people. And but David and Lindsay, they just, I don't know how they do it, because they have been doing it for so long, so consistently on so many shows. They're just geniuses. They make our lives, they make us look good.
Awesome. And you mentioned your partner Greg Berlanti, and this past year he was part of the Black Lightning show. Yeah. What are your thoughts on the first season of Black Lightning?
I loved it. I really, really dug it. What I really enjoyed about it was the fact that it felt different from the other CW shows, which I think is really important now that there are 5 on the CW, with a potential 6th coming with Batwoman. One thing we all realized, pretty much, I think after Supergirl joined the CW and it became 4 shows, we realized in order for all these shows to coexist, they all have to have their own distinct voices. You shouldn't get the same viewing experience out of Legends that you do out of Flash and, Supergirl out of Arrow. And what I love about Black Lightning is it's wholly original. The cast is amazing. That is a fantastic cast. The action is really cool, but in a very different way than like the action on Arrow. I love the characters. It's an awesome show.
And you mentioned Batwoman, and she's going to be involved in this upcoming season's crossover. Can you give us a little preview on what to expect with the character?
I can. You know what? I can't honestly. I'll be honest with you. I don't feel like it's my place.
Sure.
Carolyn Dries is. She's going to be the showrunner. I will tell you, Carolyn's fantastic. Her take on the character is awesome. Like before we got in the room for the crossover, she wrote up this, little document sort of summarizing her take, and I'm like reading. I'm like, this is awesome. I couldn't be more excited just as a fan. Awesome. I think fans will be really, really excited and pleased with that series.
Awesome. Marc, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate the interview.
Oh, good time.
Enjoy the rest of the show.
All right, take care.
Awesome.